Okay, so to explain Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk is kind of a tough pickle to do. This is a war film directed and written and produced by Christopher Nolan that depicts the Dunkirk evacuation during World War II, and this was a very interesting experiment he did. This talks about the Battle of Dunkirk and specifically the escape from Dunkirk. It does not involve any American soldiers. Normally when you have a Hollywood or any type of media World War II game or movie or book or whatever, it usually tends to eventually bring in the Americans or already has the Americans in the war. But no, we don't get that. Instead, it was the event of the United Kingdom, France, Morocco, Belgium, British India, Canada, the Netherlands, Poland, and French, Senegal, all trying to get their soldiers out of Dunkirk following a horrible loss to the Nazis. So, when he made this movie, I was actually curious. I wanted to see it in theaters, but I thought the movie would be actually pretty freaking long because it's a Christopher Nolan movie. But here's the thing. The movie's only 106 minutes. That's an hour and 40 something minutes at best, if my calculations are correct. So, yeah, this movie is vastly different from what we usually get from Christopher Nolan. So basically, you could call this his most unconventional movie he's ever produced. Memento could be considered also unconventional because the story was basically being told backwards. Yeah, that's what I keep hearing, at least. And a lot of it, and here's the thing, I can't really know how to describe the plot, because here's the thing. It involves the battle it involves the evacuation of Dunkirk. We do know certain characters' names. Well, I don't really want to say characters, I'm going to say people. We know certain people's names to an extent, but we don't really know who they are as characters. We don't know their story because the story is really the evacuation. It takes place on land, sea, and air. And normally, what you would think, or it's like that you would think that there were these moments in the movie that you thought, oh, so are they going to do a character development for him? Like, maybe, like, this soldier who's not wanting to go back to Dunkirk because of what he's experienced. You would think, like, oh, maybe that's the thing they're going to do. But no, they don't. Yeah, they don't do that. Instead, he remains who he is. That character remains who he is on that boat with the civilians all throughout the movie. He's scarred. Like, there's no coming back from that. Even the person says that he may never be the same guy that he used to be ever again, which is the cruel reality of war. And this movie really was ambitious. Like, there was not that much CGI involved. All those people you see, those were all there. They were extras. They had to fill up thousands of extras. And we see mostly practical effects. The explosions are practical, albeit I think there's some CGI in order to protect the workers in the movie. And yeah, this reaches a very well-known cast, specifically Tom Hardy, because that's the one guy I can recognize. But there are a lot of well-known actors on here. I just myself don't personally know most of them, except for Tom Hardy. But all the actors did pretty well in their roles. But considering how we don't see the meat that they have to deliver, because they're more doing physical acting than they are dialogue talking acting, because they need to express the emotions, and considering how that is, I actually give them credit that this actually happened. In fact, it's more like a modern day version of a black and white film. Really think about it. Like, you could just make it a black and white film, noir film. You could edit out everything, and you could just see the physical acting they're doing. That would be the best way to describe what this movie was. So, Christopher Nolan directed this. He came up with this idea back in the mid-90s where he and his future wife Emma Thomas sailed across the East English Channel following the path of many small boats in the Dunkirk evacuation. Nolan considered improvising the entire film instead of writing a script, but Thomas convinced him otherwise. Yeah, he wanted improvisation. He wanted no dialogue. No, he wanted no script. He wanted an improvisation of this entire movie, but his wife talked him out of it. But the idea alone that Christopher Nolan wanted to make this movie 100% organic in terms of improvising, that's pretty ambitious. Like, yeah, we got some good moments when it comes to improvising, like here, that popular Shining scene, like that here's Jackie, or I try to remember his name. I haven't watched that movie in a long time. There's also The Dark Knight, another Christopher Nolan movie. The Joker going ahead, Heath Ledger, like the bombs were supposed to go off when he was walking away all happy and whatnot, but then the bombs didn't go off what was originally planned, and then he just kept going like how the Joker probably would act, and Christopher Nolan shot the whole scene and finally went ahead and did it, which was honestly an awesome moment for the Joker, for Heath Ledger's acting, to stay in character even when something clearly went wrong. Yeah, so this movie, I would have been like, it would have been really risky for doing such an idea, being 100% improvisation without a script. It would have broken ground, but it's also a huge risk because the budget for this movie was $100 million. With all improvisation, they would have to go ahead and find something strategic in this and not risk, screwing people over in terms of the financial studios that were clearly financing this, because then they would risk going over budget. Even big movies have gotten over budget, and sometimes that's never worked out. But yeah, and the biggest thing about it was that the Battle of Dunkirk was, like I said, not a victory and did not involve American forces. So therefore, we're getting a unique look into the, quote, World War II movie genre, where we see a loss. Like, it's not like a loss and then eventually they get a victory. No. This is a straight up situation where they lose. They lose and they have to get out of where they're at. And the music, okay, I don't know if I could call this music, more like sound design, because it didn't feel like music. It felt like tension songs, tension sound design. Like they were trying to build something up, but it doesn't really sound like a song. And once again, Hans Zimmer is the composer, which was awesome. Hans Zimmerman, I mean. And yeah, accordingly, most of the actors were British, or at least of descent of it. So the idea that this is what they wanted to do, and like Tom Hardy's English, if you anyone wondered, but to those who didn't know, but yeah, a lot of these actors were mostly of European descent or were English or from the UK. So yeah, he was really trying his damnedest to make this work. So Christopher Nolan goes ahead and does something that is really unconventional for his style, at least, because normally we don't get any characters. We get people trying to survive this outcome, and some who are psychologically scarred for life. Apparently, Nolan, back in 2015, had wrote a 76-page screenplay, which was about half the length of his usual scripts and his shortest to date. And okay, it mostly necessitated on somewhat fictional characters rather than ones based on eyewitnesses, because that'd be kind of hard to do, because I think there are probably not that many World War II veterans left nowadays. I think they're becoming a dwindling species of humans, but that's a different matter. And they fought for so much. So, yeah, anyways. Yeah, and here's the thing I also noticed when I was watching the movie. This is an interesting thing. How many German soldiers were seen in the movie? Yeah, we only saw the German Luftwaffe, the Air Force of the Nazis. We only saw them. We only saw German soldiers at the end of the film. Where, let's see. I think it's Tom Hardy, he gets captured. So, yeah. I think Tom Hardy gets captured by the Yeah. Yeah, Tom Hardy reaches Dunkirk, his fuel exhausted, gliding over the beach. He shoots down a dive bomber to cheers from the troops below. He cranks his landing gear down and lands beyond the Allied perimeter. He sets fire to his plane and is taken prisoner by German soldiers. That's the only time we technically see German soldiers. Like, we see the German Luftwaffe, but in terms of, like, physically their soldiers, yeah, we never saw German soldiers. It's only scary to know what happened to that guy in terms of the universe. But, there was a strange edit at the end, like the very, very end. Like, Tommy, like, normally you would expect when a war film's doing this, they would use archival footage to express, like, Winston Churchill's big speech. That famous speech, "We will stand up to him, all Europe may be free," and all that. Here's the thing. Tommy, the British Army private character, person, he reads the thing. He reads the address from a newspaper. And as they keep showing it, they keep showing Tom Hardy landing and eventually setting fire to his plane, and before being taken away from German soldiers to prison, basically. Here's the thing. If Tommy was finishing his sentence and all that, which was looking like it was doing, and just show the plane burning and whatnot, it would have symbolized that, yeah, we lost now, but this war, we may have survived, but this war is not yet over. We'll be back in that war zone when the time comes. But here's the thing. It just cuts back to Tommy when he looks up, and then it just cuts to credits. That was the confusing edit. I would have loved it more when he finished the speech, it was showing the burning plane. As if to say, this war's not over. Victories aren't won with evacuations. That was the thing. That's what was said, actually. That would have actually been a really intense moment. Like, even though we know how this war ends in real life, in that world, the war to them is still ongoing. But, yeah, we as audiences outside the movie knows how that ends. How that war comes to an end. Yeah, and here's the thing. I kept wondering, wait, but here's the thing that did kind of annoy me. It's the fact that we don't get the Italians. Benito Mussolini, does no one seriously remember that? Yeah, I keep wondering, so where is, yeah, then I looked up the historical records. Yeah, this was a 800,000 strength army of the Nazis. There was no Benito Mussolini army of Italy. There was no Japanese. They were too busy trying to conquer Asia. Italy, I think, was busy dealing with Africa at the time, and Germany was focused on taking over Europe. So, yeah, and it is a big miracle how these soldiers got out, with the how 85% of the soldiers got out of Dunkirk. 400,000 went in, yet over 300,000 managed to get out. So 18,000 soldiers at least were killed in the battle. But to add that, yeah, but mostly it was the British Army, I believe, that sent most of their soldiers in. But, here's the other crazy thing. I was expecting, like, civilians in the city, in the like, during the air raids when the evacuation was happening. I would have expected, like, something like that to happen as well. Like, the cruel, bitter reality that people are going to die. That even civilians who are not part of this, well, that's how it happens in life, and both in the movie, it should have been shown a little bit. So, Dunkirk was a very different kind of film. Like I said, I've been trying to find a way to explain this properly, but even now I can't. But yeah, this movie was pretty awesome. I loved all the practical effects. Like, I've always been a CGI guy, but I do like a practical effect every now and again. This is one of them. The reason why I say I'm so used to CGI is because I was born in the CGI era. So when you see a practical effect, I find it as a breath of fresh air. But it's not like I'm sick of CGI. It's just I'm used to it. Because my first movie I ever watched was CGI, which was, I believe, The Phantom Menace. Though I could have watched the movie before that, and I don't have recollection. But the one movie I do remember was The Phantom Menace with CGI and all the visuals they had. Yeah, some people might say I'm sad because I dare even like the prequels. So, yeah, and technical wise, this is really, really gorgeous. The effects are great, the visuals are great, the cinematography is great. And the casting, I believe, were relatively unknowns except for Tom Hardy. So that shows that Christopher Nolan is investing more into the future of Hollywood and whatnot. And honestly, I'm interested, where does this go now for Christopher Nolan? Like, he's one of my favorite directors. He gave us The Dark Knight. He gave us Inception. He gave us Memento. The Dark Knight trilogy as a whole is was one of my favorites. So, I'm curious as to know, where is he going to go next with this? I believe he's about to do something. I don't know. I think he's working on another movie soon. And I don't mean... Oh, wait, nothing's been confirmed yet. His last movie is currently Dunkirk, but we'll see how that goes. We'll see how the next movie he plans to do goes. I'm like, his only involvement has been mostly being executive producer on Justice League and some of the DC Cinematic Universe or Extended Universe. But I really did love this movie. The actors were great in playing their roles as soldiers who are going through this horrible situation. And I do commend them that they didn't do characters, because considering how, what's the best way to describe it without sounding like I'm joking about all this? There are bombs everywhere, people are dying left and right, and there are German Luftwaffes trying to strike you down. Like, at best, the only thing you could get is their name. And yeah, that was really intense. Like, there were moments I was thinking, like, are certain people gonna die? Because I was expecting Tom Hardy to, like, make the ultimate sacrifice when he shoots down the final German Luftwaffe before he could strike another ship. But instead, I thought he was really gonna die. Like, he was gonna crash. His plane was gonna crash or something. But then I remembered, oh wait, landing gear. So I was a little surprised that they didn't kill Tom Hardy off. So yeah, that's to say something. And also, there weren't that really many explosions, so to speak, in this movie. Mostly whenever we saw planes get crashed or something, it mostly just landed in the water. Or in Tom Hardy's case, he activated the landing gear and didn't crash. Yeah, there was very few explosions, unless it's involving hitting. And, like, even then, like, you don't see orange fiery explosions. You just see water imploding because of the missiles and submarine attacks. So, yeah, this is a movie that is really worth looking into. And honestly, I would want this to be put in preserves for film registry here in the U.S. I would love that. Because this is a very big, important movie. Like, this kind of gives a very accurate representation of what it's like to be a soldier in a war, and not like, science fiction war where they just show crazy explosions a lot. No, we instead get a very grounded, very realistic, most likely historically accurate in terms of aesthetics. The character, the people, the names of people, I don't know if they were real. Like, I think he says some of them were fictional because it would be hard to find eyewitnesses. So yeah, The movie was pretty awesome. I can't wait what Christopher Nolan intends to do next, but I just know it's going to be awesome. And I was, like I said, I was surprised the time run was slow, but I think I'm getting into circles now. So I think I'll just end it here. This was my thoughts on Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. Stay tuned for more.